Hey everybody, it's Metalhead in Mexico, not in Mexico at the moment. This is Keiko, Metal Dog, and today I'm going to take a dive into the next chapter of heavy metal recommendations from a Gen Xer's perspective. My husband and I emigrated from the US to Mexico earlier this year after several years of working toward legal residency in Mexico. We are legal residents there as well as residents in the US. So we're kind of straddling cultures and countries right now. And I am currently in the US taking care of some things, and my husband is in Mexico, and I miss him dearly, but we'll be back. I'll be back there soon. Anyway, today's video is going to cover my recommendation for heavy metal, and with an emphasis on the Global South, as I've promised to have on this channel. I will make exceptions from time to time if a band is really just, I just can't ignore them. But I'm trying to focus on Global South bands because by and large they tend to get less recognition and attention. And a lot of Gen Xers especially might be old enough where they're kind of stuck in their ways, and not necessarily as a bad thing, but we stick with what's comfortable, we stick to what we know, and might be less likely to engage in new things. So with that, I'd like to suggest a different narrative. And that different narrative is to maybe give some new bands a try and see what you think. And for me, my recommendation is going to be from New Zealand, and the band is Alien Weaponry. Alien Weaponry formed in 2010, and they are a power trio. I guess you would say power trio is kind of a 1970s term, sort of like Rush or The Police, I guess. Not many bands can pull off this kind of lineup, right? But this band definitely does. They're really just super intense and powerful, and I really love them. I loved everything I've heard from them, and that's why I'm recommending them. They are comprised of a lineup of brothers, Henry and Louis DeYoung. They are respectively play bass and drums, and share vocals. I believe not bass and vocals, drums and guitar. The guitarist also serves as the lead vocalist, and then the other two band members do backup. Then they have now they've changed bass players a couple times, and now they've got I want to respect their name and how it's pronounced, but I'm gonna try it. It's pronounced I believe Turanga Morgan Edmonds. Turanga Morgan Edmonds. So he has been a recent change in the lineup. And anyway, what sets them apart, in my opinion, is not only that they're heavy. Their structure is very much kind of like it's raw and thrash, but it also has a bit of groove at times. And they're very heavily influenced by Rage Against the Machine, and so and it really, I think, speaks to how they've chosen to rechannel and repurpose that same kind of energy from Rage Against the Machine, but applicable to their culture. They are several generations deep into being, of Maori descent. So upon appearance, you would think how a Maori indigenous person might look. They don't really look like that, but then again, as you might notice from previous videos, I'm particularly drawn toward bands and culture and people comprised of people who defy what the perceived norm is. And just as I don't look black, these gentlemen don't look Maori. So what is Maori? What isn't Maori? Who decides that? Who gets to decide that? I think these gentlemen have the right to decide that they are Maori. And if they're doing everything they can and happen to be profiting from it to speak the language, know the language, uphold their culture and their heritage while they're at it, that's a fucking Maori in my book. So to me, they deserve every bit of credit and success that they deserve, and they've worked really hard. Evidently, they've worked their way to performing with Gojira, which is another band I will go into, although they are not from the Global South. but they work their way into a gig slot where they're performing with the likes of Gojira, which is a much more prominent band these days. So I would say that their sound is they do sing in Maori and in English, and in previous videos I've mentioned how much I like when bands sing in their own language, similar to Rammstein from Germany. I think there's not everybody has to convert to English for radio sensibility. In fact, I really like it personally because I can actually enjoy my metal while I work on things like writing and other projects without worrying about the language so much. I can just enjoy the raw aggression of metal and still enjoy it, even though it's spoken in another language. And so I would say it's for anybody for whom that sounds really interesting, hearing songs in Maori and about Maori culture and about colonialism and things like that. They cover heavy topics, and they're not afraid to broach that, and I really appreciate it about that. Appreciate that about them, excuse me. And so they were originally influenced to start this band with a heavy influence also, not just from music, but from the movie District 9. So if you've heard of that movie, or whether you haven't heard of that movie, maybe check it out. It would actually answers a lot of questions about what might have inspired them. And so the main album that I'm familiar with is their debut album 2018, pronounced Tu, and TU, and then they've had two subsequent albums, one called Tangawa, and the recent release in 2025 called Te Ra, or Te Re. So anyway, I would also recommend their Live in Auckland Town Hall concert. You can go to their Alien Weaponry website on YouTube and see that. I will actually put the link in here below. As I'm making more of these videos where I recommend a band, I'm going to include the link that I recall was the turning point for me of getting hip to this band in particular. And so that's going to be true of any band that I introduce. I'm going to just create a list and just keep tacking it on, and it'll become like a checklist, like a metalhead checklist. So anything that you're interested in checking out, it's just one of the really cool things I'm finding the joy in internet and in YouTube and in these digital formats is discovering bands that otherwise were restricted by the digital output in the media formats. Those of us who are pre-digital era know that it used to be, you had to find the album, or you had to find it on tape, or the right CD format. There are CD formats for the US and Canada and Europe, and then there was a different format for Asia and other parts of the world. So it was always really like you could get the song, but then you wouldn't have a device to play it on, which really sucked. But now, thanks to digital and thanks to these different platforms like Pandora and others, I'm not plugging anything in particular, I'm just sharing what I use. I've discovered, and YouTube, I've discovered so many bands. Just, sort of like I follow the wall and I follow the recommendations, and I'm like, don't like that, wow, they're good. Don't like that, wow, they're good. So Alien Weaponry definitely ranks up there. They're pretty crunchy, pretty intense, so they're an onslaught. I would say these guys have a really bright future, and I really hope they keep on doing what they're doing, and that they keep a cool head about things and have good business sensibility to stay the long course. Because I think music is going to, and art is the way to preserve language, and I think they have a really smart concept going in reintroducing the importance of saving languages, because I just think with everything, I guess, eventually changes and things like that, but it happens partly because of complacency and because of encroaching, powers that be. And I guess I've always been a little bit of a nonconformist and not one to really, I respect letter in the law to a point, but I'm not like the best rank and file person. I've always I'm respectful, but only to a point. I ask why, maybe a little too much, I guess you could say. And so for me, one of the biggest things why I think this band in particular, I like their raw energy. I like they're also really young too. So here, seeing young energy, this positive, this focused, is really, really, I think it's really encouraging as somebody who's getting a bit on in years. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm sure not young either. And seeing the energy from these guys, and it just makes me feel like they just re-inject the life into heavy metal that I thought was kind of getting a little stale. There's been some bands that it's like, yeah, I kind of feel like they're good, but I've heard it, I have not heard a band with quite Alien Weaponry's sound, and I definitely haven't heard any band singing in Maori. So if that sounds like something that you would like to check out their link. Check out my recommended comment links below, and if you've heard of them or have seen them in concert, definitely comment below. Or if you have any insights on that, what do you think about bands singing in their own language and kind of pushing against the status quo of like everybody needing to be marketable by singing in English? Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a bad thing? Weigh in with your comments. And again, if you know of any other bands from that region, like from Australia or New Zealand, throw those in the comments too, will ya? Okay, that's about it for now. That's my recommendation for today. Alien Weaponry. They fucking rock. That's it. Have a good one, guys. Blessed are the weird.